I think there were a couple things. Some are related to the design and some are related to the package. So to the design, we, partly because we were building on existing designs and trying to match existing ventilators, we had proven technology. So we had a proven system. The pneumatic system, it's not brand new. We weren't innovating a brand new system. And so there was proof that it could work. So even though we hadn't done a huge amount of testing because we just didn't have time, it wasn't a hard stretch to believe that this kind of design would work because there are ventilators like this. And so if we proposed a design of a car that was very much like a Toyota Prius or a Toyota, a Honda Civic, you'd say, yeah, it's sort of like a Honda Civic. We know Honda Civics work, so we can be pretty sure that this is going to work. And so that was useful. That was one piece. The second piece was we relied very heavily on off-the-shelf components. So these were not components that needed additional testing to see whether they were going to work, because the companies that are marketing them and selling them have done a lot of that testing. And so when these products come with a specifications sheet of here's how they're going to work, here's what their performance is, that they are good for that. A third piece is that this particular design, and this was a focus for us, was able to meet all of the requirements that the competition had set out. And in fact, beyond that, in looking at the requirements that they stated, we realized that there were additional requirements that we thought were important, that based on our conversations with our medical experts. And so we developed an additional 6 requirements for our own team that we added to the set. And so I think the competition judges looked at this and said, wow, not only is this have the capacity to meet all the requirements we set out, but they've thought about this problem enough to then actually add additional requirements that they think are also important. So we were able to show that. But I think another piece of this that's not the design, but again is the package, was the documentation. We worked really hard on getting very good documentation. And I think a big piece of that was, as I said, our goal was never to go in and win this. It was to try to contribute to the open source effort and the open source initiatives and contribute something to the broader community to have someone else then take it forward. And we knew that that we could come up with an amazing design, but if we didn't document it well, no one else would be able to take it forward. It's really hard to pick up somebody else's work unless they've done a really clear job laying it out. And partly we had a big team, so we had a lot of people who could help out with the documentation, but we also had a team that was committed as a group, partly because of their education at Smith College, thinking about engineering in a liberal arts context. They were committed to documentation and how valuable it was. They saw how valuable it was in their jobs, and they were willing to spend the time and energy to put in to make the documentation as solid as it could be. And we had hundreds of pages of documentation in total, because we wanted to be as clear as we could about what we had done, what we hadn't done, what we thought we would do next, what we had learned from the experience, and we put that all out there in a package. And my understanding, I haven't seen all the other packages that were submitted, but my understanding from the judges is that our package had more documentation than many of the other ones did, because we really had laid out very clearly. And it was partly because we really wanted other people to be able to take this design and go forward with it. And what's interesting is that now that the design has won, it's been getting additional attention, and we have a number of different groups around the world. There's a group in Pakistan, there's a group in India, there's a group in Brazil who are working on trying to build this design, and they keep sending us questions. And it turns out that even in all of the documentation that we've prepared, there are still things that we didn't answer as well as some group might have wanted to know. And so they're asking us questions, and we're sending them answers of here's why we did this, or here's what we'd recommend in this other place. And so you can never have, I don't know, you may probably have too much documentation, but I think, again, it's a fine balance of how much is enough, but not too much. But in our case, we really wanted to err on the side of having more rather than less to be as clear as possible. And I think that was something that set our design apart.